Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for warm welcome. And my name is John Park. I run a company called A41, which is a validator company and blockchain infrastructure company based in Seoul, South Korea. And I would like to toss over the mic to Jordi, who's a chief alchemist at Mantle.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Jordi. I'm working very closely with Mantle. Mantle is a layer 2 built on Ethereum. And I spend a lot of time not so much on the developer side, but more on trying to think about the user side, the apps. Where are we going from here? We had an amazing bull run. 2021 was probably the peak, and a lot of good stuff came out of it, and a lot of bad stuff as well. And now it's so exciting to actually be a part of, the layer 2 wars, as we'll talk about, and trying to think about capturing users and capturing the right developers and the right teams. And it's a fascinating topic. I have a lot of interesting discussions every day, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the strategy side. But yeah, Alchemist basically means, trying to bring a little bit of magic to the space. We have a lot of people that want to use crypto. They're very excited about it. I meet a lot of enthusiasts. And we need to kind of get there in terms of giving them, sustainable and great apps to use.
Yeah, and, Jordi, you just mentioned Magic and also L2 Wars, so let's get right into it. I mean, it's Alchemist in the L2 Wars. It sounds like a good wording, right? So I think blockchain or crypto industry so far has had so many narratives and so many discourses whenever we had bull market or even bear market, right? And I think for the past, throughout this year, I think there were so many L2s that were popping up. And ZK was another trending idea as well. But when Mantle came up, I was also questioning myself, what would Mantle do in order to excel itself, in order to differentiate itself from all these L2s that are coming out saying that they're different? How is Mantle different, and how would you win this L2 war?
Yeah, I think there's going to be multiple winners, but you want to be one of the good ones, right? So, Hasib has this infamous concept of blockchains as cities, and I think L2s are cities in a way. And we already see, something like Base has certain characteristics. It's attached to maybe the US users. We've seen a lot of rug pulls there, even in the first days, which San Francisco, I used to live there, and I've seen, your car gets smashed every 3 days. Don't leave anything in, even like sunglasses, it's gone. At the same time, San Francisco has this amazing kind of creativity that comes out of the chaos. So we saw something like Friend Tech, which was a totally new concept for SocialFi, which everybody else now is taking notice and trying to figure out, is this going to be a trend? Where do we go from here? And it kind of arrived in a place like San Francisco, like Base, which is based there. And we have a lot of other L2s coming up. I would say most of them are focusing on ZK Tech. They got a lot of hundreds of millions of funding from VCs to really kind of hone in and build the tech side. Mantle is quite different. So we're very much focused on the user, the community, and the DAO, and kind of having this treasury incentive that you can use. And it's a modular chain. It's the first modular chain, which basically means you can take kind of the best of what everybody else is doing. So all the ZK guys, Polygon they have some incredible, I've talked with Sandeep about the stuff that they're building, and they have some great technologists there, some of the top ZK guys in the space. And Linea, you kind of go down the list. It's great. We'll kind of let them fight their war as to who has the better, ZK provers and the better pieces of the technology, and then we can just take that, put it into the modular chain, similar to how we've kind of chosen for the data availability layer to make fees a lot cheaper for the users. You don't need data availability on Ethereum on the L1. There's much cheaper fees if you don't do that for users. The gas is lower. So ultimately, the vision is to focus more on the apps and the users and create that experience. And when I think about cities, you guys kind of choose where to live. Maybe some of you live in Seoul, some of you live in other cities. I personally live in Singapore, which is quite similar to Tokyo or Seoul in some ways. And the reasons I live there, and I think is the reasons people choose which blockchain to use, is number one, security. We've seen so many rugs and so many scammers in every chain, and it's kind of sad to watch. Like you have something like Solana, which was in 2021. I don't know. Did you use Solana?
Yeah.
So I think we all probably used Solana. All of us that was in the space because it was so exciting. It was like an alternative L1. It was very cheap fees. They have all these cool graphics. It was really nice, but unfortunately, the security just with FTX and also the bridges, wormhole, all this stuff, it didn't really work out too well. Hopefully they make a comeback. But in the meantime, what we've realized is, if I'm a user, I'm going to keep my life savings. I want to feel safe. Like I want to know that there's not scammers trying to like pull the rug. So that's top of the list, security, and then liquidity, right? If you're opening a nice restaurant, do you want to open it in a country that the GDP is very low? Like you don't really have people that can go to Michelin star restaurant. That doesn't make much sense unless you're so good that people will like fly over just to have come to that city just for your restaurant, which has happened. So liquidity is another one that we focus on, and unfortunately, yeah, again, like Solana, there's some great apps, great builders, great developer community, but there's not a lot of money flowing in the system. There's not a lot of stable coins. So you have something like Drift, like a great trading app, but how much stable coin is there for people to make bets? And then briefly, like the last thing, of course, is creating like a simple user experience, because a lot of us here, we're at conferences, we probably know how to use blockchain quite well. But if we want to go to like mass adoption, the same number of users that, let's just stay in crypto. Let's not even go outside. Just like what Binance, Bybit, like these companies have, you do need to make it as simple and clear. So a lot of the focus goes there.
I really like your analogy of all the cities and like L2s. And I feel like, it really does remind me of like Asian cities, like the mega cities like Tokyo, Seoul, and Singapore, like when you compare it to kind of Mantle, because it has liquidity and like it is a usability, like, everything is like, somehow safe, but when, like, I think I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit more when you talked about the data availability layer, because I think that's where Mantle is a little bit different from other L2s as well. And as far as I acknowledge, Mantle has a plan to adopt EigenDA for its data availability. What was the rationale behind choosing EigenDA for Mantle?
Yeah, so the Eigen concept of like restaking and using what's a huge amount of staked ETH, billions and billions of dollars, and using that for security in other places is a concept that Mantle was probably the first one to kind of partner in such a strong way with Eigen and use that infrastructure that they're building. We've seen other L2s and some of the L1s that became L2s, like CeeLo, kind of use a similar approach. And when it comes to security, you want as much capital as possible behind the security that you're using. And like I said, yeah, we're very focused on security.
And let's also touch upon the liquidity part as well. Mantle has Mantle DAO, and Mantle DAO has so far a humongous budget that's designated for and allocated for the ecosystem and community to grow. What's your plan, or what's the Mantle's plan in terms of how you're going to utilize that liquidity so that you can have nice restaurants?
Yeah, we want to have the best restaurants. We want people to know that they can build shop here and they will get a lot of liquidity. And at the same time, also for users, like if they come in, they want to be a part of a lot of transactions happening. Like there's a very busy market. There's a lot of things to do. So like you said, Mantle has the largest treasury in crypto when it comes to non-native assets, so ETH and stablecoins. There's a very large amount of ETH. It's almost 300,000 ETH. And similarly, like a very large amount of hundreds of millions of stablecoins as well. So what we're going to use this for is actually to bootstrap the economy of the city, right? If you're looking at another L2, I don't see how they can compete with already having a lot of community and liquidity to come in and really try to attract that level of user. So right now, what we basically proposed to the DAO is basically, let's start with an initial 160, 150 million of the treasury and start deploying it into the apps that want to be very close with Mantle. So there's two categories. There's like the ones that will get kind of up to 10 million, and the smaller ones that will get up to 1 million. And it comes to a sense of how much have we invested in the app, how much have we looked into it. You know, there's a lot of talk about doxing. Should founders be doxed or not doxed? We don't think that it's that important, but it is important that somebody knows who's involved. And for us to kind of choose a showcase app and to put like at least an initial 10 million behind the liquidity for that app, we do want to know like who is this person, like, you know, what's their background, talk to them several times. And as an economic committee, we make the kind of due diligence that's needed in order to say, okay, let's start with an 8-figure deployment into this app. And you know, smaller apps will start with 1 million. Ultimately, this will start using our treasury to, as you said, try to win the L2 wars by attracting the activity.
So could you, I think there will be a lot of builders or potential builders who are going to watch this later on. And could you walk us through a little bit more details in terms of, you mentioned about economic committee as well. So it seems like there is a lot of process that's involved in the due diligence process. So how would, let's assume that I'm a builder, that I want to build it on top of Mantle. What do I do in order to actually apply for the grant or like get invested by Mantle DAO?
Yeah, so there's two categories that we have. One is, you know, general purpose grants. There is a kind of big campaign going on now with 20 million MNT tokens that are sort of allowed to be given out to anybody who's participating as a user or as a builder. And you know, that's trying to create a concept of what other blockchains are doing in terms of, you know, just generate a lot of user activity. And then there's a second path that is unique to Mantle that nobody else really is doing, where we're saying, okay, we really want to back teams that we know very well, that we can say, okay, we're going to deploy 10 million at least into your app. We want to know who you are, and those teams have to apply for ecosystem funds. So these are more like VC-backed teams. They're not going to be totally anonymous, random, you know, hackers putting something together. So for these ones, what we've done is we've done an initial pass. We've said we want to support 30 apps. You know, we want DeFi borrow lend. We want a money market. We want you know, some kind of GMX perp trading. You know, go down the list. We have infrastructure, you know, different derivatives, different social fi, different types of apps. And we're opening up to community to apply for each one. Some are already taken. So you know, I'm pretty excited for a lot of the things we have coming in Q4. That's going to be like when sort of like the tsunami comes for Mantle, because a lot of the apps that have already been kind of approved have been building and will be deploying very soon from September. We have a lot of open slots. You know, we want somebody to come and build the social fi. So those teams can apply for ecosystem funds, sort of like a VC funding. We have a lot of VC partners. There's 8 or 9 of the top VC funds partnering with Mantle. So how it works is you want 2 million of funding to kind of start your idea. One of the VC funds will put 1 million once they choose you, and the ecosystem fund will co-invest 1 million. So we have a $100 million ecosystem fund that will go towards sort of VC investing in the apps. So like you said, we're starting to create a type of city that is, you know, much more integrated, and it's still decentralized. You know where your money is. You can always check it. You can withdraw when you need to withdraw. You have the full kind of transparency that smart contracts have. But at the same time, you have an entire ecosystem that is built around trying to, you know, direct people in the right applications and in the right use cases.
Sorry. I got millions of questions that are popping up in my mind, but so like with all these bold ideas like Mantle DAO, creating an eco fund and grant, like what do you expect from like Korean market, in APAC market in general, like in terms of builders? Where would you, what type of areas would you be specifically like or peculiarly more interested in when it comes down to, hey, let's say there is a John Park applying to Mantle DAO grant, like what would you expect to see from the Korean market and APAC market in general?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, APAC market is, a lot of inspiration for Mantle in many deep ways in the philosophy. Obviously, we like to partner with local partners like A41. We're creating our staking infrastructure, both for Mantle but also for the large amount of ETH. So one of the exciting things that we're building is our own products in a way that are part of the DAO, that are part of the ecosystem. So instead of using just Lido, which we have deployed 40,000 ETH into Lido, we do want to have kind of like that. It's the largest by far right now. So we want to have a lot of staked ETH on Mantle. But the other thing is we're creating Mantle ETH. Internally, I'm trying to push the name Meth, METH. So if you're into LSDs, watch out for Meth. It's coming quite soon in Q4. We'll try to do some Meth airdrops for people. And this is kind of an example of using the benefits of the economy that we already have and say, okay, instead of us just staking with Lido, we'll create our own liquid staking derivative. Ultimately, like one of the visions that I have for the ecosystem is, I think DeFi 1.0 was great for a checking account. You have some money like in your bank, you want to spend it, you want to go trade, okay, you can just keep it in USDC or USDT. You can keep it in ETH, you can spend it and do your thing. I think the next generation is a savings account. So a savings account generates interest, generates yield, and I'm not talking about the wacky 40% yields that we were seeing in the last bull market where basically you're either pooling some like pool 2 token and then you have to sell it before everybody else sells it because it's all going to zero. I'm talking about sustainable yield. So there's two sources of base yield, right? There's staked ETH staking rewards, which is about 5%. So we want to make the math kind of like a native currency almost of the ecosystem, where you're holding it and it's generating you 5% no matter what else is going on. Then the next step is stablecoins. So one of the exciting announcements, we're not quite ready, it's going to be next week, but we have a first of its kind massive partnership, and we're going to be deploying a lot of the, I guess I might as well, since we're here, I'll say a little bit of it. I can't give you the formal announcement, but we'll be deploying a 9-figure sum of our stablecoins, USDC, USDT, into the first of its kind retail accessible stablecoin that will have the full yield. So you can earn 5% yield right now from US Treasuries with all the safety and all the legal guarantees. And this will be the first time that this is available to the public. So it's not for US users. Again, we're more international and even Asia focused. But as an Asian customer, you'll be able to say, okay, here's my ETH, here's my dollars. I'm generating yield on both. And then if you're a little bit degen like me, and maybe some of the people here, you can take those assets and actually deploy them into different DeFi protocols to trade or do any kinds of speculation as far as you want to take it. But at least you're generating constantly like this yield.
It's a bold initiatives that are being announced today. I didn't know, but I mean, one thing that really struck me as astonishing from Mantle is that when we first started a discussion about the Mantle doing meth. I mean, I love the naming, but I just feel like it's so wrong in many ways. But when we first started discussing about meth, I was thinking that Mantle as a DAO, because like a lot of people just assume that it's a bit DAO and like Bybit token in a way. So I was just thinking that you're just gonna build your own platform and like use all your ETH that way. But then, like I saw, like DAO governance vote that popped up saying that, hey, we want to utilize Lido, and that passed. It was really astonishing because if it were actually single entity driven DAO, it wouldn't have happened because it's not like it's not really best interest for you, like in a sense, because you're using other LSP as well. So that really struck me hard. And do you think this type of governance will be continued in the Mantle as an ecosystem overall?
Yeah, I mean, the whole ethos is that it's DAO led. So there's a lot of feedback always in forums. Lido made a proposal, and there were both sides of the story. There's obviously people worried about Lido already having too much of the market share and whether this is good for Ethereum overall. So there's probably competitors of Lido coming in and saying like, no, don't. They already have too much. Don't choose them. For us, we want to do what's best for the chain, and so just like a shareholder, expects that the CEOs of their company that they're investing in will take their interests at heart. Similarly, we have to say, okay, if Lido has this very important role, it's sort of infrastructure in a way. Like we need to have a good amount of staked ETH as infrastructure for the project to be able to create like a good DeFi ecosystem. So that ultimately, we left it open. We're open to other staked ETH derivatives as well. We will have meth, and that will be an exciting part that we can incentivize with extra yield potentially. So it's good to have a vibrant ecosystem, and that matters more than it's my team and not the other team. And you mentioned Bybit. Bybit is a great partner. It's one of many partners. We have gaming partners like Game 7. There's a lot of different partnerships. Bybit is a great partner to have because of they have the centralized user base, which is the easiest to get to. So DeFi natives, we're already there. We want to go to like the centralized exchanges, which is people treating crypto for trading, and it's fine to do that. Like speculating and people want to get rich and they want to do these things. That's fine. The fact that they're already used to the concepts and they're used to the blockchains makes it so that we can more easily onboard them. Create a safe bridge basically from centralized exchange. And we saw that with FTX, how they had Solana. They created that bridge. We see that now with Coinbase. It's a great way to get that next sort of hundreds of thousands of users, and obviously to get to the millions, we'll need to make things very nice and easy to use for everybody else.
Yeah, I don't think we have that much time left, but I mean, it is actually like my experiences so far have demystified that like Mantle as being Bybit token is not basically, and the DAO has been a driving force behind that, and it was amazing to see it. But some people here in the room may be asking, since you have brought it up, like how would it be different from Lido? Like why is Mantle trying to have its own product then? How's Meth different? I mean, at least for now, how is Mantle team imagining the liquid staking platform to be a little like, how is it going to be different from like Lido and other LSPs that are on the market, so that it could be one of the driving force to make Mantle to become the winner of the L2s?
So there's more utility than what Lido can bring that you can potentially create for your own tokens that you're supporting. You can create a lot more accessibility. You can potentially, use things as gas. You can say, okay, you want to use Meth for gas instead of ETH, so you can earn yield while you're holding your gas token. That's something that we'll explore. These are the types of things that are harder to do when it's someone else's LSD, or as it's called now, LSP. Okay, they keep changing. It's LST and then LSP. So the idea is to kind of be creative, make a fun and exciting environment for people that's safe, but also has like real yield. You're actually putting some of your financial life on a blockchain. You want to get returns for it, and if you want to speculate, you can go down the spectrum. We have like a Macau option if that's your thing and you want to go down the route. If you want a safer option, I mean, we can briefly just mention Anchor, for example. I was kind of very vocal around the time of Terra Luna, and the thing Anchor got right back then was it made such a simple, accessible product that got a ton of people in. Unfortunately, because the underlying base was not secure. But the thing that they did right is basically you don't have to like learn all this mumbo jumbo, blockchain, all this stuff. It's just put your money here, earn yield. Now the yield was unsustainable, and the base currency was a problem. Trying to imagine what it's going to be like to make like a safe version of Anchor, almost, if I should say, where you're generating yield off of U.S. Treasuries and off of like organic chain activity. That's something that is worth creating, a native infrastructure for, like Meth, like the USD token that is soon coming out.
I think the competitive edges that Mantle holds or boasts on top of other L2s is the spirit of experimenting. I think a lot of the L2s are having pretty much the similar playbook, I would say, from a vantage point of just a node operator or a blockchain infrastructure provider. But with that in mind, where would these people in the audience will be able to learn about Mantle? How is it different from other L2s? What are the resources they could tap into? Could you introduce them?
Yeah, so right now we've just started a few days ago, kind of like the airdrop phase in essence, which is sort of a introduction to the chain. So there's an NFT collection called Citizens of Mantle that people can try to get whitelisted for. There are soul-bound tokens that you can basically attach to your wallet that will start tracking your activity. So as you're doing things on chain, the more things you do and the more tasks you complete, you start accruing points, which will eventually kind of participate in the airdrop that's being planned. This is sort of like an introduction. All the exciting things are just starting now. So the reason why a lot of people haven't heard as much about Mantle as, let's say, Arbitrum is because we've deployed mainnet very recently, and a lot of the kind of killer apps haven't really they're sort of beginning now to appear. And I think over the next months there will constantly be announcements and new apps, and it'll be very exciting. So if people want to join, they can get their soul-bound NFT and start participating.
Any last remarks that you want to give to the Korean audience and Korean market?
Yeah, I mean, the Korean market is, I think, a great fit in general for Mantle. They want the experimentation and they want something new and something different. They've probably been burned a little bit with some of the things in the past, so they can appreciate the safety that can also be brought. And yeah, we will make sure that both liquidity and security are prioritized.
I think we're gonna see a lot of cities popping up soon, like in the L2 area, and I hope to see the Mantle as one of the cosmopolitan and the mega city out of all the L2s. And thank you so much for all the audience who gave valuable time for us. And thank you, Jordi, for coming all the way to Korea from Singapore and spending time with us and sharing all the Mantle story. And you're staying here until the end of this week, right?
Yeah, I'll be here till the end of the week.
Yeah, so if anyone sees Jordi, please say hi and ask him about Mantle.
Or our podcast. I have a podcast now, Steady Lads. You can watch that as well. Cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Please.
All right, thank you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for Jordi and also John.